Timeless Assassin by author Raj_Shah_ 7152 Chapter 575–582. Chapter 575, Major Universal Events. Planet Vorthas, Central Square, 12th Elder's POV. The 12th Elder stood atop a massive 12-foot-tall stage, with banners of the Dragon's Army, the Cult of Ascension, and the Vorthas Workers' Union hanging behind him in the background, as he addressed a crowd of 50,000 strong. The election season was drawing near, and he needed to not only secure the administration rights to planet Vorthas this cycle, but also hopefully expand to a few more planets, elevating himself from the title of 12th Elder to hopefully the 7th or 5th. With his recent surge in popularity, it seemed likely that he could pull this off, and secure the administration rights to at least 3 to 5 more planets. If you people remember, he began, his voice booming through the sound projectors, I stood side by side with the dragon when the dastardly snake Dupravel Nuna attacked him. The crowd roared in anger at the name, some shouting curses, others shaking their fists in the air. I couldn't kill him that day, and yes, he escaped, the elder continued, his tone dipping for dramatic effect. But what did I tell you? He pointed to the audience, scanning the faces as if searching for someone to answer. We will capture him, and we will bring him to justice. And did I do it or not? The cheer that followed shook the square, chants of his name rising and falling in waves. After soaking in the noise, he raised both hands for silence, flashing a proud smile. After 32 long years, the cult has conquered a new planet. We are expanding once more. The square erupted again, people stamping their feet and waving flags, the sound echoing off the surrounding buildings. But, he said, letting the word stretch as he leaned forward on the podium, his voice lowering into something almost conspiratorial. Does our dragon army have the best resources? The best training? The best healers? A chorus of, no, rolled back at him. That's right. No, they do not, he said, shaking his head slowly. Because over the past 30 years, we have been too engrossed in our despair to focus on such aspects. Too content with holding ground instead of taking it. Too quick to accept survival instead of demanding victory. He straightened, slamming a fist against his chest. But no more. Re-elect me, and I will make sure our dragon's army has the best of everything. The finest weapons, the most skilled healers, the most proficient training, so that they may conquer a new planet for us every few months. The crowd's roar this time was deafening, flags whipping through the air as the chants of, Lord 12th, thundered through the square. Dash 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 dash. I think your speech went marvelously well, Lord 12th. I think you're the greatest orator I've ever had the pleasure to see speak in my entire life. Chaosbringer praised once the speech was over and the 12th Elder had retreated from the public eye. Ha ha ha, yes, it was one of my better speeches for sure. The crowd was absolutely electric. He said, accepting the praise, as he tilted his nose just a tad bit higher. What's next, my lord? Which new planet are we visiting next to showcase your magnificent glory? Dodo, Seraph, Morit, or perhaps, Tithia? Chaosbringer suggested, as the 12th Elder chuckled at the suggestion. No, Morit and Tithia are out of question. I may have momentum, but I'm not strong enough to clash with the 1st or 2nd Elder directly yet. The workers' unions there are too strong, they won't let me make a public speech on their soil without sending men to disrupt it. As for Seraph, maybe we can have it as our last stop on the campaign trail, but for now let's focus on Dodo. Planet Dodo is the one place that we are most likely to win elections in as per internal polling, the 12th Elder said, as through his words Chaosbringer grasped a new bit of information. Greater than the narcissistic 12th Elder was scared of offending the 1st and 2nd Elders directly. This was something he made a mental note of, so that he could create a perfect personality model of the 12th Elder in the future. Dash 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 dash. Meanwhile, within the Eternal Garden, Calith's POV. The upcoming cult internal elections were not the only important cosmic event scheduled in the coming months, as the All-Gods Summit between all righteous faction gods was also scheduled to take place in a few weeks' time. The sentiment surrounding the event seemed grim, and there seemed to be a strong consensus that the 6 great clans were planning a rebellion. No, 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 no. Do you understand what you're suggesting, Morris? Have you lost your damn mind? You want to orchestrate another great betrayal. Caliph admonished, as just the idea of killing another god made Caliph feel like he wanted to punch Morris in the face. Unfortunately, Morris was not before him today, and the two of them were just conversing over a crystal call. Think about it, Caliph. It's the classic carrot and stick approach. We kill one of them, dangle some benefits and concessions before the rest of them, and voila, we have a working treaty for another 2,000 years. Morris explained, as he seemed to be dead set on his idea. I don't know, I don't like this. I feel like it's a very volatile idea. If things don't work out like you want them to, then this may potentially backfire big time. Caliph said, sounding concerned, as he seemed against taking such a drastic measure. It may potentially backfire big time, but it may also broker peace for a long time. The righteous alliance is built on the backbone of bloodshed and killing the timeless assassin. If we did not do that back then we wouldn't have such a long-lasting peace right now. You want to rule the universe with an iron fist. You must not be scared to use it to quell rebellion. Morris explained, as he clapped his hands and pointed towards his own forehead. Think, Caliph, think. It's either this, or we lose control over the 6 great clans. Those fuckers are dead set on making us the enemy now. Morris urged, as finally Caliph's reserved expression broke. I don't know, man. Let's discuss this with Helmuth, Caliph said as Morris instantly waved him off. What does that barbarian know about strategy? He'll fight when we tell him to fight. Morris countered, as Caliph let out a long sigh. Sigh. Morris, respectfully, your plans aren't working as well as they used to. You said that the cult's attack on planet Coral will force the 6 clans to come back to the negotiating table with us, but it did not. Nobody fears the cult anymore. We have reduced them to a size where they are no longer a threat that unite us, and we are paying the price for it. So I hope you know what you're doing this time. Because surely I don't want to live in an age once again where gods die like dogs every few years. Caliph cautioned, as Morris chuckled at his words. My plans work just fine, Eternal Sovereign. I said, it should bring them to the negotiating table. Emphasis on the should, because I never said, it will. There was always a chance that they've made up their mind to rebel and nothing can change it anymore. But that's exactly why we need to take a drastic step. If they want to rebel, they must be ready to pay the price for it. Morris said, as he chuckled like an evil maniac. Stop fretting over the small things and start polishing your origin blades. Soon, they'll need to plunge another god's heart. Morris said, before disconnecting the call. Chapter 576, Mastering Disarm. Planet Dodo, Secret Training Facility, Leo's POV. Leo did not want to admit it, yet learning how to send an imperceptible wind wave to pop a set of water balloons was turning out to be some of the hardest training he had ever endured in his life. As for days on end, without so much as a proper rest, he and Ver kept firing pulse after pulse of wind waves over the long water trough, only for the surface to ripple each and every time from the faintest disturbance in the air currents above it. No matter how much they experimented, no matter how stubbornly they pushed themselves, they simply could not get the execution right, as though the move itself refused to be learned by brute repetition alone. It's not about speed or power. Leo eventually realized, as even when he drove the wind pulse forward faster than the eye could follow or packed it with enough force to shatter wood, it remained detectable all the same. Which was why he assumed that the solution had to lie in proper technique, with it having nothing to do with just the raw ratios of velocity and strength. The imperceptible wind pulse moves like a bullet, rotating and tunneling into the air currents around it. But the key here is the balance. The 11th Elder had advised on their very first day of Stage 3 training, yet it wasn't until day 10 that Leo finally grasped what it meant. To send a pulse of mana that produced neither sound nor the slightest shift in the surrounding air currents, he needed to shape it into a small rotating spiral, one that neither spun too fast nor too slow. Spinning too fast caused a faint whistling pitch to hum through the air, while spinning too slow allowed the surrounding air currents to catch and deform it, making it perceptible. So the key to mastering the move lay within the narrow, unforgiving range between the two extremes, in a precise resonance point where the rotation aligned perfectly with the stillness of the air, allowing the pulse to vanish imperceptibility before striking its mark. However, finding that sweet spot was easier said than done, as the amount of precise mana control one needed to produce it was off the charts, and even if they managed to master it, one still needed to factor in the surrounding air currents and natural wind speeds, which were phenomena that impacted it drastically. Nah, fuck this shit, I'm tired of repeating this process like a fucking donkey, Ver snapped, throwing his hands up as if the very air offended him. He stepped back from the trough, his chest rising and falling with sharp, irritated breaths, glaring at the neat row of water balloons as though they were the culprits behind his frustration. His actions of course prompted the 11th Elder to step in, who had done nothing but watch Leo and Ver train for the past 2 hours, without offering a single word of input. Ver, he said, his voice smooth but firm, donkeys are patient creatures, don't insult them by comparing yourself to one if you don't possess its virtues. He let the words hang, then gave a light shrug. You can call yourself a cat, but cats are more clever than you. Ver let out a sharp snort. Oh yeah, if I'm a cat then you're a fucking mouse mage, cause what the fuck is this move even about? I've been here 10 days, Elder, and all I've got to show for it is sore arms, dry eyes, and the urge to throw these damn balloons in your face. The 11th Elder's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile, the kind that somehow annoyed and intrigued Ver in equal measure. He stepped forward, his boots clicking lightly on the ground until he stopped between the two dragons, glancing at Ver first, then Leo. To learn this move, you need to let go of your need to control the wrong things, he said at last. You are both trying to command the air as if it must obey you. But the air doesn't respond to force, it responds to rhythm. So you must learn to match it, not dominate it. That sounds like something a mage would say, Ver muttered, folding his arms. The Elder chuckled. Perhaps. But there's a reason I can do this, he said, raising a hand and sending a perfectly imperceptible wind pulse forward, bursting a single balloon at the far end of the trough without so much as a ripple in the water, and you cannot. Your mana is a guest in the air, Ver. When a guest barges in uninvited, the host notices. Your job is to make sure no one even knows you were there. Leo studied the motion carefully, narrowing his eyes. The pulse that the 11th Elder sent wasn't exactly fast, in fact from attacking standards it was pretty slow, but still its perfect balance made it undetectable. Now, the Elder continued, stepping back, take a breath, both of you. Reset your stance. We will do this again, and again, and again until you both get it right. For once, Ver didn't argue. His jaw was tight, but the Elder's tone left no room for further complaint. They reset, drawing in mana, shaping it, and releasing pulse after pulse toward the balloons. The next 4 days blurred into an exhausting cycle of attempts, corrections, and failures, each one stripping away another layer of frustration and replacing it with a sharper instinct. The Elder didn't let them rush. If a pulse made even the faintest sound, he made them stop, breathe, and begin again. If the water rippled, they adjusted their spin, shaving fractions of a rotation until the disturbance vanished. On day 11, Leo finally managed to send a pulse that caused almost no visible ripple, though it still left the faintest tremor in the air. The Elder only gave a curt nod and said, better. Again. By day 12, Ver's temper had cooled into something closer to determination, and he began to match Leo's output, both of them occasionally landing near perfect shots. Still, the Elder reminded them constantly, almost perfect is still a failure. In the field, the difference between imperceptible and barely perceptible is the difference between living and having a blade in your ribs. Day 13 brought the first taste of real progress. Leo's pulses were now consistently silent, though still not quite invisible to the air. While Ver hit 2 in a row without any disturbance at all, his face breaking into a rare grin, until the Elder told him to start over for losing focus mid-series. And then came day 14. Leo stood before the trough, his breathing steady, his mind clear. He no longer thought about the ratios or the force, he simply felt the air around him, adjusting his mana to slip into its rhythm. His hands moved almost on their own, shaping the pulse into that perfect spiral, neither too fast nor too slow, each rotation resonating in harmony with the stillness around it. Asterisk. The pulse left his hand without a whisper, without a shift in the currents, vanishing into the space between moments. This time, the water didn't ripple. The air didn't tremble. Pop pop pop. And to his delight, all three balloons at the far end burst cleanly, which became the only sign that the pulse had ever been there. The elder's smile widened, genuine this time. There, he said softly. That is the heart of disarm. Now, strike again. Leo did, sending another perfect pulse, and another, each one bursting its target without leaving the faintest trace. For the first time in 2 weeks, he felt the weight of the training lift, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of mastery. You can call it luck, or you can call it skill, the elder said, but from today onward, you can call it yours. Thank you for allowing me the pleasure to train you, Lord Shadow Dragon. Leo exhaled slowly, feeling the faint hum of mana settle within him. The training had been long, repetitive, and at times maddening, but now that he mastered the third and final stage, he knew he could perform disarm in battle. No, thank you for training me, 11th Elder, this time the honor was mine. He replied, as he bowed deeply to the man. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. Chapter 577, A Focused Leo. Planet Vorthas, Leo's POV. After completing his training with the 11th Elder, Leo returned to Planet Vorthas, with him and Ver not scheduled for any other skill training for the coming 3 weeks. Upon his return, he first went to meet Mu Fan, who had grown significantly pale over the past 2 weeks, with the poison starting to deteriorate her physical condition. Her once radiant complexion now carried a ghostly pallor, the warmth in her cheeks replaced by a sickly, almost translucent shade. Dark shadows clung stubbornly beneath her eyes, while her lips had lost their color entirely, cracking faintly at the edges. Even her posture had changed, as though the weight of the poison gnawed at her strength with every passing hour. Yet despite all that, her gaze still held that sharp, as if refusing to yield to weakness. I have done everything you asked. I have planted your agent alongside the 12th Elder, I have copied a note of his upcoming schedule, and have stolen a couple extra pairs of his clothes, just like you wanted me to. Mu Fan said in a soft voice, the poison seemingly having affected her ability to speak loudly as well. MMHMMM. Leo responded, as though completely uninterested in these minute details, as instead, he simply looked into Mu Fan's eyes and stared. Have you done anything in these past few days that betrays me, or my plan? Leo asked, as Mu Fan shook her head unflinchingly. No, she replied in a sure voice, as Leo observed the outline of her aura, which remained unchanged. Very well. Good job. Keep it up and I'll give you the cure soon, Leo said, as he turned and began walking out of her office. Tell Chaosbringer to meet Su Pei here 4 hours from now. He will smuggle Chaosbringer into the Skyshard mansion without any guards noticing. Leo instructed before walking out, as Mu Fan let out the breath she did not know she was holding. Dash 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 dash. Back at the Skyshard mansion, a palpable tension hung in the air, as it had become clear to every family member that something serious was taking place behind the scenes, a suspicion fueled by Su Pei's unusually secretive behavior in recent days and further confirmed by the unexpected arrival of Cervantes and Gimli from Terra Nova. Even Leo was shocked to meet Cervantes again, as he had not expected to see the man here of all places, let alone in the Skyshard mansion. The last time he saw Cervantes back on the Ark ship, the man had been a purely human warrior, with neatly combed golden hair and sharp blue eyes that carried a commanding presence. But the man standing before him now was something else entirely. Looking part human, and part engineered animal. His once human gaze had been replaced with slitted feline pupils of deep emerald shade, a telltale sign of genetic modification. While a faint layer of patterned fur traced along the edges of his jawline and up toward his temples, blending naturally into his skin. His stance and movements were sharper now, more instinctive, carrying the quiet confidence of a predator. But that wasn't all. Not only did he seem to have modified his DNA, but also seemed to have dabbled in cybernetics, as gone was the flesh and bone on his right arm, which was now replaced by a matte black cybernetic limb that looked quite powerful. The plating was sleek yet heavy-duty, with reinforced joints, and the forearm housed a segmented compartment that clicked open to reveal a compact twin-barrel missile launcher, with 2 specialized rounds fitted inside. It was a transformation both bold and novel, as Cervantes was no longer the golden-haired, blue-eyed warrior Leo once knew, but a hybrid of beast, man, and machine. "What even happened to you?" Leo asked, as Cervantes chuckled at his question, before letting out a deep sigh. "It's a long story. But it was tough for me to survive on the front lines of planet Terra Nova. I needed to grow strong and fast, so I chose the route of genetic modification. I knew it would limit my potential going forward, but I was desperate to improve back then, so I don't regret my decision now. As for the arm, I lost it in battle, so I had to replace it. But it's cool, it's a cool upgrade, I like it," he said, as Leo shook his hand and gave him a tight hug. "Seems like you've been through a lot," Leo said, as Cervantes chuckled once more. Yeah, I have. Dash 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 dash. Once Leo had finished greeting everyone back home and managed to shake off the constant stream of questions probing into what he had been up to, he finally pulled Alia, Cervantes, and Gimli aside, guiding them down a quiet corridor and into one of the smaller meeting rooms away from prying eyes and ears. Click. He shut the door firmly behind them, turning to face the 3 with a seriousness that cut through any hint of casual reunion. "Look," Leo began, his tone leaving no room for argument, "I don't want to implicate you in what's going on, so don't ask me too many questions. That way, even if you're caught and put under psychological evaluation, you won't slip up, because you won't know enough to slip up in the first place." He let that sink in for a moment before continuing. "What I need from you two," he said, pointing at Cervantes and Gimli, "is to look after one man and make sure he doesn't die. You're going to act as both my doctors and my prison wardens, and your main task is to ensure that my target stays breathing. No bleeding out, no starving, no smashing his head for an easy death. I'll break him, and you'll patch him up. Simple." Leo's gaze hardened as he spelled it out. "No matter how much he begs, no matter how many benefits he offers you to let him go, you never do it. Understand?" Cervantes and Gimli exchanged a quick glance before nodding in unison, the weight of the request clear in their expressions. Satisfied, Leo turned to Alia. His voice softened slightly, though the steel never left his eyes. "Sister-in-law, I'll tell you everything I know later. But for now, just know this," he paused, holding her gaze, "we will have our vengeance soon." Chapter 578, Reunion. A few hours later, Chaosbringer's POV. The moment Chaosbringer laid eyes on the man waiting by the gates, his throat tightened and his eyes instantly brimmed with tears. He had pictured this day 1,000 times in his mind. He had dreamed of it, prayed for it, begged the stars for it, and now, finally, it was here. "Are you the man who will take me to meet Lord Boss?" Chaosbringer asked, his voice trembling like a pilgrim who had reached the gates of a sacred temple. Su Pei's brow creased slightly. "Lord Boss? You mean Master Leo?" Chaosbringer gasped, clutching both hands to his chest as if the name itself were a divine blessing. His lips curved into a serene, almost blissful smile. You even know the Lord's true name. He must trust you a lot." Then, with the sincerity of someone thanking a prophet, he whispered, thank you for coming here to take me to my Lord and Savior." The way he gazed at Su Pei made it seem as if the man had sprouted angelic wings right there on the spot. What's wrong with this weirdo? Su Pei thought, fighting the urge to take a step back. Still, He kept his tone flat and businesslike as he turned and instructed Chaosbringer to follow him. Not even 5 minutes had passed since the duo began their journey, when Chaosbringer suddenly slowed and raised a hand. Wait a moment please kind sir. He requested, as Su-pei stopped, watching in mild confusion as Chaosbringer reached into his storage ring, produced a delicate white tissue, and dabbed it carefully across his forehead, wiping away each bead of sweat as if they were an insult to his existence. He then straightened his robes with precise flicks, moistening his lips like an actor preparing for a stage debut before nodding solemnly and walking on. Su-pei said nothing the first time. Or the second. But by the third halt in less than 20 minutes, his patience finally gave way. Why are we stopping so often? He asked, frowning. For a moment, Chaosbringer didn't answer. He simply tilted his head back, gazing at the evening sky with a soft, almost nostalgic smile, then lowered his gaze and locked eyes with Su-pei. I'm not a great warrior like you, he began earnestly. My body tires out after only a few steps. My clothes wrinkle. Ugly sweat beads form on my forehead. However, his voice softened, reverent. I refuse to meet Lord Boss looking like some hillbilly. I must look my most dignified when I stand before him. So I stopped to correct these minor mistakes. Su-pei's left eye twitched. If it were Dupravel here instead of him, he had no doubt in his mind that Chaosbringer would already be unconscious and slung over a shoulder. But Su-pei was, unfortunately, a polite man. So he just sighed, adjusted his pace, and continued walking toward the Skyshard mansion at something closer to a crawl. Nearly 50 minutes later, they finally reached the estate's boundary. Climb on, Su-pei instructed, crouching slightly. I'll sneak you in. Chaosbringer obeyed with all the hesitation of a maiden boarding her first horse. He mounted gingerly, draping his arms around Su-pei's shoulders with the daintiest, most feather-light grip imaginable, before feeling his strong back muscles. Oh my, you're strong, he said, sounding shy, as a shiver of panic ran down Su-pei's spine. Nope, Su-pei thought, as without another word, he bolted past the security measures and deposited Chaosbringer at the front porch like unwanted cargo before vanishing in a blur, determined to have nothing further to do with the bizarre man ever again. Dash. Ding dong. Chaosbringer nervously pressed the bell to the Skyshard mansion, as Jacob walked up to the door to open it. Click. Jacob took one good look at Chaosbringer, before turning back as he shouted, Leo, your right-hand man is here, as he moved aside and gestured for Chaosbringer to come in. Right-hand man, Chaosbringer thought, his chest swelling with pride, as he walked into the Skyshard mansion as if it were holy land. This is where he lives. This is Lord Boss's house. Chaosbringer thought, as he resisted the urge to just fall to the floor and worship the wood he walked on. As instead, he remained upright, and waited for Leo to show up. Step, step, step. He heard the sound of someone descending down the steps, as his heartbeat rose from the anticipation. A couple seconds later, Leo walked into view, wearing a simple jeans and t-shirt, and with a calm smile on his face, as Chaosbringer immediately fell down to his knees then and there. This lowly servant greets the Lord, Chaosbringer said in the most reverent tone his voice could muster, dropping to both knees and bowing so low his forehead nearly touched the polished floor. Leo didn't hesitate for even a second. His voice rang out warm and certain, carrying the weight of command and familiarity. Chaosbringer, my right-hand man. He stepped forward and placed a firm hand on each of Chaosbringer's shoulders, giving them a solid, almost brotherly tap. The simple gesture shattered what little composure Chaosbringer had left. As a choked sob tore from his throat, and in the next instant, the dam broke entirely. Tears streamed down his face in unrestrained waves. His shoulders trembled beneath Leo's grip as he tried and failed to speak, only managing broken fragments of gratitude. My lord, you still. His voice cracked again, and he gave up on words altogether, bowing his head as the tears fell freely, dripping onto the wooden floor like offerings at an altar. Leo allowed him the moment, his hands steady on Chaosbringer's shoulders, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. You've done well to find your way here. Now stand, you've been away long enough. Chaosbringer obeyed, but his eyes never left Leo's face, drinking in every detail as if trying to etch it into his very soul. I would cross every world, face every blade, and burn in every hell if it meant serving you again, my lord, he whispered, voice still shaking. Then you're right where you belong, Leo replied simply, as he embraced Chaosbringer with a warm hug. Of all his followers, Leo had no doubt in his mind that Chaosbringer was the most loyal. Chapter 579, Mapping It Out. Once Chaosbringer had finally regained his composure, Leo wasted no time bringing him up to speed, outlining the entire plan in a calm yet deliberate tone. The 12th Elder is an enemy I must remove, Leo began, his gaze fixed on Chaosbringer, who sat listening with rapt attention. But he's still an elder of the cult, so killing him publicly is impossible, and doing it in secret would only spark suspicion. He began pacing slowly, his voice steady. At this point, I don't want any unnecessary eyes on me. I can't risk triggering an investigation. The 12th Elder needs to disappear, but it has to be in a way where no one even realizes he's gone. He stopped, meeting Chaosbringer's eyes. That's where you come in. The reason I had you interact with him these past days was so you could study him. Learn his behavior, his speech patterns, his mannerisms. Because once I have him in my custody, you're going to replace him in public view. Chaosbringer's eyes widened. Replace him. Yes, Leo confirmed. I'll teach you a technique, you won't need to master it in full. Just follow my guidance, and I'll mold your body into his exact likeness. Vocal cords, hair color, even his scent if needed. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. From that point on, it will be in your hands. You'll take the 12th Elder's place, move freely within the council, and serve as my eyes and ears from the inside. As one of the ruling members, you'll wield the access and authority to make things happen when I need them, often without question. So in short, you will be my most critical undercover asset. Chaosbringer's expression shifted from disbelief to awe. Brilliant. As expected of Lord Boss, a flawless plan. Rest assured, I'll play my role to perfection. I know you will, Leo said with a faint smile, nodding in approval. That's why I entrusted this to you. This role demands both reliability and cunning, and I know you have them both. Chaosbringer's heart fluttered at the praise. Oh please, my lord, you flatter me, he said, batting his eyes dramatically, as Leo ignored the odd reaction and continued. Your training starts tomorrow. Every night, after your duty ends as the 12th Elder's personal assistant, you'll come to the Skyshard mansion and report for training. The technique I want to pass down to you is called shapeshift, and normally, it takes months to master, but I'll only teach you the single transformation you need to learn and not the whole move, so it should be much faster. I'll be here whenever you need me, serving you however you command. Chaosbringer replied eagerly, as Leo gave him another firm shoulder tap before dismissing him for the night. Meanwhile Dupravel, planet Frostburn. Of all the secrets that Mu Fan had gathered about the Elders and the Elders' Council, the only part that disturbed Leo was their secret annual meeting on planet Frostburn, which required knowledge of traversing through a complicated ice maze to reach the meeting location. If Leo was going to turn Chaosbringer into the next 12th Elder, then this was one piece of information he needed to learn, as according to Mu Fan, presence in that annual meeting was mandatory for all Elders. Hence, forced into a corner, Leo sent Dupravel to planet Frostburn, to check out this hidden labyrinth and map a way into the meeting room and back out for Chaosbringer to memorize in the future. Whistle. Whoosh. The cold winds of planet Frostburn bothered even Dupravel as a monarch, as he couldn't even begin to fathom as to why someone would choose to hold their annual meeting on such a cold and clearly inhabitable planet. If I'm feeling cold here as a monarch, then anyone below the transcendent tier won't survive this biting cold. Let alone finding his way to the secret meeting chamber, the first thing that mortal would need to do is find adequate frost protection. Dupravel thought, as he was sure that Chaosbringer could not survive 2 minutes under these conditions if left to his own devices. Eventually, he found a cluster of ice caves with several openings leading downwards in what he assumed was the entrance to the meeting hall. However, to him almost all of them looked identical, and understanding which was the correct route was nearly impossible. Guess I'll have to explore them all, one at a time, he concluded, before starting from the furthest cave to the right, as he let out a deep sigh and dove right in. The first tunnel sloped steeply, winding deeper into the frostbitten earth before ending in a frozen wall thick enough to be mistaken for the mountain's heart. The second caved in halfway, shards of jagged ice blocking the way forward like the teeth of some enormous beast. The third was more promising, wide and even with a faint breeze whispering from somewhere ahead, yet it led him in a perfect loop, spitting him out into the same cave cluster he had started from. So it went, hour after hour, day after day. The labyrinth was no simple warren of tunnels, it was alive with deception. Sometimes the air grew warmer for no reason, masking the faint mana traces that guided him. Other times, the sound of his footsteps would echo twice, once naturally and once more faintly from an entirely different direction, trying to lure him off course. And then there were the traps. In one cave, a seemingly harmless patch of frost concealed a thin mana thread that would have triggered a barrage of ice needles from the ceiling. In another, a narrow stone bridge across a chasm was rigged to collapse under weight, the only warning being the barely perceptible shift in mana density along its edges. Naturally, Dupravel avoided them all, but only because his perception was honed to a razor's edge, every sense straining for the faintest wrongness in the frozen air. By the third day, his frustration had dulled into cold focus. He began cataloging each dead end, marking subtle grooves in the ice with his dagger's edge, memorizing the unique resonance of each path under his boots. A sharper echo meant a narrower tunnel ahead, while a muffled step often hinted at hollow ice or hidden pits. On the fifth day, after countless wrong turns and retraced steps, he slipped through a winding descent that seemed to resist his forward progress, the walls narrowing and the floor twisting underfoot as if trying to disorient him. Yet he pressed on, weaving around rune-marked tiles and frost-slick ledges, until the oppressive corridors abruptly opened into a vast circular chamber. Ancient runes pulsed faintly beneath the frost-coated walls, their glow reflected in the smooth black surface of a massive obsidian table at the center. At last, I found it. Dupravel exhaled slowly, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. He had found it, the hidden meeting chamber of the Elders' Council. And hopefully, Chaosbringer would be able to replicate his success as well, especially with the perfected map that he would give him. I just hope he develops the physical stamina necessary to complete this journey. Even coming down here is no easy task for a mortal. Dupravel mused, before making his way back out again, since his task here was now complete. Chapter 580, The Time for Justice arrives. At the same time Dupravel was navigating the Frostburn labyrinth, Leo dedicated himself fully to training Chaosbringer night after night, drilling into him relentlessly the art of shapeshift. Focus on drawing water into your veins, then bind it with mana control, Leo instructed, as under his guidance, Chaosbringer proved to be a quick learner, absorbing lessons with remarkable speed. To be fair, Leo did not train him in the complete form of shapeshift. Unlike the way he and Ver had been forced to master it, with them learning how to transform each body part into 15 different forms, Chaosbringer was taught only one shape. Leo stripped the technique down to its essence, teaching him nothing about elongating bones, contracting muscles, or twisting features into new configurations. Instead, he focused solely on one transformation, the 12th Elder. In that sense, Chaosbringer's training was less about mastering the full technique and more about perfect memorization, imprinting a single form onto his body and mind until he could replicate it perfectly. And as a result of this simplified training, the results came swiftly. In just 15 days, Chaosbringer could alter his build to match the Elder's frame, adjusting height, weight, posture, and general proportions with uncanny accuracy. The face, however, proved the most difficult. It took him 3 more days of exhausting repetition before his features aligned flawlessly with the Elder's likeness. While he needed another day to nail down hair color and vocal resonance, until finally, 19 days after his training began, Chaosbringer stood before Leo as the perfect double of the 12th Elder. Great, With you mastering the transformation as the 12th elder, my true plan can now finally begin. Leo said while rubbing his palms, as he allowed himself a vengeful smile. The time to bring the 12th elder to justice was drawing near, and if everything went smoothly, by tomorrow afternoon, he would finally have his hands on that man. Next day, the 12th elder's POV. The next day, the 12th elder began his business on planet Vorthas just as usual, his routine unmarred by the slightest hint of suspicion. A crowd of 20,000 city officials had gathered for him at the city plaza, where he was scheduled to make his first public speech of the day. Beside him, was his favorite personal assistant Chaosbringer, who kept drowning him in compliments to keep his mood high. "My lord," Chaosbringer said, his voice just shy of reverence, "the venue is packed beyond capacity. Your influence draws more supporters with each passing day. Even the dissenters dare not lift their heads in your presence." The elder smirked, his robe sweeping across the marbled floor of his private residence as he made his way toward the awaiting convoy. As they shouldn't. Dissension is nothing more than cowardice pretending to be courage. Still, their defiance makes for useful examples. If the masses see me speak while order is enforced, fear keeps the peace. Chaosbringer chuckled softly, eyes lowered. "Truly, none hold the reins of fear as deftly as you, my lord. The people need only one glimpse of you and they are reminded of their place." The elder absorbed the flattery like fine wine, allowing it to buoy his stride as his private guards flanked him. They entered the armored shuttle, its security better than the one the Dragon's convoy received weeks prior, as he made his way towards the event venue. Whoosh! Minutes passed, and soon they arrived at the city plaza, where a few enthusiastic citizens and press members greeted them just outside the venue. Click, click. The elder stepped out with deliberate poise, the rhythmic clatter of his boots striking the polished steps that led into the city plaza, as he presented a strong image for the cameras. His guards fanned out instantly, forming an impenetrable wall between him and the gathered masses as he and Chaosbringer made their way inside. "Remember, my lord," Chaosbringer murmured as they ascended the final steps, "you need not convince them of your right to re-elect you. You need only remind them that it's their only option." The elder glanced at him briefly, faint approval in his gaze. "Wise words. Perhaps you are learning something useful by being with me after all." The main hall of the plaza stretched wide, crystal chandeliers glowing above rows of dignitaries and officers already seated. A crimson carpet guided him forward toward the dais, though before he could mount it, a sudden jolt rippled through the air, as a clumsy servant, Cervantes in disguise, stumbled forward with a silver tray, its contents spilling violently. The elder recoiled as a dark splash struck his robes, staining the pristine fabric. His guards bristled, instantly forming a circle around him as the unfortunate servant was dragged away by two of them. "My lord, forgive me," the servant cried before being silenced with a swift blow to the stomach. The elder's nostrils flared, rage tightening his expression, though Chaosbringer leaned closer, his tone low and soothing. "My lord, the washroom is just behind the vestibule. A quick change and you will stand before them as immaculate as ever. It will not delay the proceedings." Grinding his teeth, the elder conceded with a sharp nod. "Very well. These people can wait. Let them stew in anticipation." With his guards holding position at the hall's entrance, the elder strode with Chaosbringer toward the side passage, his stained robe swishing in irritation. "No need to follow us, I'll help the lord from here," Chaosbringer said once they arrived at the washroom, as he stopped the guards from following them in, and instead went in alone with the elder. "Come fast," the elder urged, as with him not protesting the decision, the guards chose to respect his space and did not follow them in. Inside, polished marble floors reflected his image almost as well as the shiny mirrors, as the 12th elder pulled at the clasps of his outer robe, and muttered under his breath. "One incompetent servant, and I must waste time with this nonsense." But just as he began ranting, he suddenly felt a sting at the side of his neck. Spuck! A thin needle suddenly embedded his neck vein, so subtly that he almost mistook it for a trick of his imagination. His hand shot up, but the poison had already entered his veins, a fast-acting paralysis that stole strength from his limbs before he could cry out. The hell? He wondered, as he saw his own reflection blur from before him, as the room tilted, and his knees suddenly buckled out. What's happening here? Why is Chaosbringer not screaming for help already? He wondered, as the last thing he saw before fainting was a movement on the polished floor, a shadow slipping from behind the partition with inhuman silence. I must stay awake. I must fight, the elder thought, but the strength to even speak a word eluded him, as he blacked out soon after. It was Dupravel who had knocked him out, and once the job was done, it was Supay who swept in like a ghost and without a word raised the 12th elder over his shoulder, before disappearing out of the bathroom window. By the time the last shimmer of movement disappeared, the washroom door creaked, and Chaosbringer stepped forward. Alone now, he stood before the mirror, his form already shifting into his practiced shape. Muscles shrank, bones twisted, skin molded. The stained robe was shed and replaced with the robe Mu Fan had procured beforehand, as he changed into a fresh look for his public speech. Within moments, the 12th elder stood again, only this time it was Chaosbringer. He practiced the elder's sneer, curling his lip with disdain, then tested the voice with a low growl. Let them stew in anticipation, he muttered, the mimicry flawless. Satisfied, he adjusted the clasp of his robe, squared his shoulders, and stepped back toward the vestibule. The guards outside straightened instantly as he emerged, none the wiser. We proceed, my assistant is trying to clean the stain inside, no need to wait on him. Chaosbringer declared, his tone sharp and commanding. And so the elder returned to the grand forum, his presence unbroken in the eyes of his followers, while somewhere deep within the streets of Vorthas, the real 12th elder was carried helplessly into the shadows, unaware that his reign within the elders' council had already ended. Chapter 581, Realization. An unknown holding cell, the 12th elder's POV. Groan. The 12th elder groaned as he regained his consciousness, his head feeling heavy as if it were weighed down by molten iron. His eyelids flickered open, and the first thing he saw was the single bulb swaying above him, its dim light carving long shadows across the damp stone walls of the holding cell. Drip, drip. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling, each drop echoing sharply in the suffocating silence, as it was only then that he realized that he could not move. Thick ropes bound him to a steel chair, cutting into his wrists and ankles, the cold bite of the metal frame digging into his back. Pull rattle. He tugged once, twice, but the knots refused to give, and the sound of his own restraints rattling only sharpened the sense of confinement. He lifted his head, scanning the cell, only to find that there were no windows, no cracks, nothing but those slick walls and a single reinforced door bolted shut. He was by all means in a prison cell, where no commoner could reach easily. The hell, he muttered, before his eyes finally laid on the four figures sitting across from him. Mu Fan sat with her hands folded, her posture rigid, as she actively avoided looking into his eyes. Beside her, Supay remained perfectly still, his face utterly expressionless, as if carved from stone. Further down, Viper leaned back casually, his white mask gleaming faintly in the bulb's glow, his calm presence somehow more unnerving than the cell itself. And finally in the center, framed by them all, was Leo, the shadow dragon. Leo sat upright, his eyes locked on the elder, as he looked at him with pure hatred emanating from his eyes. However, the narcissistic elder failed to notice it for now. Have you gone completely insane, Skyshard? The 12th elder thundered, his voice booming against the stone walls, louder than the dripping water, louder than the rattle of his chains. What is the meaning behind this? Release me this instant, he demanded with his jaw clenched, as rage began to swell in his chest. Pull screech. He pulled hard against his binds, the chair screeching across the floor, as he glared burning holes into Leo as if sheer indignation alone would be enough to shatter this betrayal. But the room remained silent. No one answered. Not Mu Fan, who lowered her eyes further into the shadows. Not Supay, who remained a statue. Not Viper, whose calmness behind the mask was impenetrable. And not even Leo, whose stare alone pressed heavier on the elder than the ropes holding him in place. For a full 2 minutes nobody spoke, as the 12th elder struggled against his binds and barked like a dog for all of them to release him, unless they wished to suffer the consequences. However, regardless of his threats, none of them budged. You know, you truly are a work of art, 12th Elder. Leo said eventually, as he sat up from his chair and walked up to the 12th Elder, before squatting just in front of his face. All of us wondered how you would react after waking up, whether you will be scared, whether you will be remorseful, or whether you will go into shock and begin hyperventilating. However, none of us predicted you to wake up with this sort of self-righteous anger. Congratulations, you have set the bar even lower than all of us expected. Leo said in a flat tone, as he saw the 12th Elder's face contort in confusion. What are you talking about, Skyshard? I'm warning you now. Unless you let me go this instant, this won't end well for you. I'm an elder belonging to the council. If you so much as land a hand on me, even if you are the Shadow Dragon, you shall be tried for high treason. The 12th Elder threatened, as Leo let out an amused chuckle. Ha, ha 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 ha. Leo laughed, as he turned and looked into Dupravel's and Supay's eyes, wondering if those two could believe what they were hearing, before turning and planting a tight slap across the 12th Elder's face. PAA. Asterisk. The crack resounded through the cell, sharp and merciless, as the Elder's head snapped to the side. His black hair scattered loose, and a bright red imprint bloomed across his cheek, each finger perfectly etched into his skin. For a moment, he froze, jaw hanging open, as no words left his lips and his breath got caught halfway in his throat. Then slowly, he turned his head back toward Leo, eyes wide in stunned disbelief, as though he could not comprehend that someone had dared to strike him. At this moment, the proud fury that usually burned in his gaze faltered, replaced by raw humiliation, as his false sense of authority crumbled under the weight of that single blow. The ropes at his wrists rattled as he stirred, but his usual arrogance wavered, leaving only silence in its place. Here, I dared to hit you. Go do your worst. I'm waiting. Try me. Go on. Make me suffer the worst consequences. Come on. Leo urged, as he inched closer and closer, even tilting his cheek to offer a free shot, which he knew the other party couldn't take. That, the 12th Elder stumbled through his words, unable to form a cohesive sentence, as for the first time since opening his eyes, he saw the hatred in Leo's eyes, and realized the extent of madness behind his expression. His throat bobbed as he tried to swallow, yet the words came out broken and weak, stripped of the confidence he usually wore like armor. The fire in his eyes dulled as the crushing weight of the situation pressed down upon him, and only now did the silence in the room feel suffocating, for no guard came rushing in, no authority stood behind him, and no title shielded him from the raw hatred blazing in Leo's stare. He tried to hold Leo's gaze, but the longer he looked into those eyes, the more his insides twisted, for there was no mercy there, no restraint, only a predator that had bared its fangs and was waiting to rip him apart. You wouldn't dare, he muttered, though the words no longer carried the thunder of command, but the trembling echo of denial. Leo leaned in even closer, his voice low, almost a whisper, yet more terrifying than any roar. Wouldn't I? You think this room, this moment, this meeting is still happening in your little council chamber? You think your power stretches in here? No, Elder. Here, there is only me, you, and your crimes. The Elder's chest rose and fell sharply as his breath quickened, each inhale shallow, sweat beginning to bead along his temple despite the chill in the damp air. His mind spun, reaching desperately for a solution to this predicament, but without his guards and his sense of security in his title, he realized he could do nothing much on his own. Especially when he couldn't even move a muscle or circulate any mana. Crimes. What crimes? He said, hoping to play innocent, but no one seemed to be amused by his words. This is a setup, a misunderstanding, he argued, but Leo just kept staring into his eyes unflinching, as only now did he realize the true extent of his predicament. At this moment, as his frantic thoughts clawed their way back to Luke and the crimes he had committed against the Skyshard family, the truth finally clicked, and the terror blooming in his chest could no longer be hidden. The proud mask he wore shattered completely, his shoulders shrinking, his eyes darting with the hollow panic of prey that had just realized why the predator had chosen him. And seeing that flicker of fear at last, Leo's lips curved into a cold, satisfied smile, for his prey had finally understood the reason behind its captivity. Chapter 582, Begging. An unknown holding cell, the 12th Elder's POV. Skyshard. Skyshard, listen to me, I'm telling you, this is a misunderstanding, the righteous faction must have turned you against me by feeding you wrong information. Talk to me. PP, please talk to me, I'm sure we can find a resolution to whatever grievances you have. The 12th Elder pleaded desperately, his voice cracking as he leaned forward as much as the ropes binding him allowed. However, to his dismay, Leo only wagged his finger slowly before his face, his eyes locked and unblinking. There is no misunderstanding here, 12th Elder. You see Mu Fan sitting behind me, she has already confessed the truth about your crimes. You no longer have any room to lie. The Elder's eyes widened as he alternated his gaze between Leo and Mu Fan, his voice breaking into a shriek. Mu Fan, you liar. How dare you turn the Shadow Dragon against me? Leo, listen to me, she's from the Mu clan. She's from the enemy clan. She must have turned against us. You can't trust her. You can't. She's a double agent. Leo chuckled, wagging his finger once again before the Elder's face as though correcting a disobedient child. Wrong answer. I'll give you one more chance to confess the truth. Or else. Leo warned, but the Elder foolishly ignored the warning and instead thrashed against his bonds as he spat more venom. Mu Fan, you snake. How dare you bite the hand that feeds you? Look at me. Look at me. I said, look at me. PAA. Asterisk. Leo's hand snapped across his other cheek, the sound ricocheting off the stone walls. A second red imprint bloomed hot on his skin, and this time a faint line of blood trickled from the corner of his lips, staining his chin as his head lolled briefly to the side. The 12th Elder froze again, his expression twisted in stunned disbelief, as though every shred of the dignity he clung to had just been stripped away. Leo leaned closer, his voice low, measured, every word dripping with threat. Wrong answer. Next time, I won't slap. I'll punch and break your nose. The one after that, I'll bring out my dagger and start carving your body. Do you understand? He threatened, as the Elder's breathing grew shallow, his chest heaving as sweat dripped freely from his temple, and for the first time the weight of Leo's words settled into his bones. The silence that followed was worse than the slap, for in that silence he could hear his own fear taking shape. He trembled, his lips twitching as though the words wanted to come but pride fought to hold them back. Yet Leo did not move, his cold stare pressing heavier than the ropes, and slowly the Elder realized that he stood at the edge of disaster, and no matter which road he chose, only pain and suffering awaited him. You can't kill me. I am a member of the Elder's Council. My death will be sensed by Lord Soren, and when that happens, this will not end well for you, Skyshard. The 12th Elder warned, his voice trembling as he clung to his final line of defense. He knew he had no other cards left to play, so he invoked the only name powerful enough to frighten most men, Lord Soren, the one being he believed could crush Leo and his monarch-tier followers with ease. Yet to his disbelief, Leo merely shrugged, as if the threat meant nothing, his expression unflinching even when Soren's name was spoken like a deterrence. Well, if he finds out, he finds out. But nobody harms my family and walks away scot-free. Leo's tone was calm but laced with venom, his eyes never leaving the Elder's. So there's no chance in hell that I let you walk away, even if it means dying here with you. But, his lips curled into a thin, cold smile. Dying is not my intention today. Which means I'll simply make sure you don't either. No matter how much I break you, I'll keep you alive, hydrated, fed, and your body sustained just enough, so that I can return in a few days and do it all over again. Leo's voice never wavered, his presence pressing down like a vice, until the Elder realized that death was not the worst fate awaiting him. Yo, you're crazy. This is madness. The 12th Elder cried, his eyes darting wildly around the chamber. Mu Fan. Viper. Save me. His voice cracked as he turned desperately to Mu Fan first. Mu Fan, listen to me, if you free me, I will shower you in riches beyond counting. Land, power, status, treasures from every corner of the planet, all yours. You won't have to remain some lowly attendant anymore. You can live as a queen here. But Mu Fan only scoffed softly, her eyes refusing to even rise and acknowledge him, her silence louder than any rejection. The elder gritted his teeth and swung his pleading gaze to Dupravel. And you, Viper, no, Dupravel. Help me now and I will rip apart that cursed contract that binds you to Skyshard with my own hands. You'll be free, do you hear me? Free. No contracts, no slavery. You and your son can live as citizens of honor, with wealth and comfort. You'll never have to kneel again. But Dupravel only leaned back against the shadows, arms folded, the faintest shake of his head all the answer that the 12th elder received, as he was forced to negotiate with Leo once more. Leo, wait, listen to me, he stammered, his tone groveling now. If you don't kill me, I will become your slave, just like Dupravel. I will stand by your side as your #1 ally within the council. I'll ensure you never face resistance, never again be forced onto dangerous missions. You will live freely, as you please, with my protection in the council guaranteeing it. He leaned forward as far as his binds allowed, his face desperate, trembling. All of this can be yours if you just let me go, today. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.